I enjoyed thinking about your questions this week. Thanks for participating. Every warrior in training lived alone in his own cave for a year. Training to become a warrior was required of all boys in Sparta. Remember, the goal was to protect the city. It was not a choice or a career, but an obligation. If you did not pass the test of living in the cave for a year, you did not become a citizen. You would become a middle-class worker for the city-state. If someone was injured or was sick during battle, they would probably be left on their own. Afterwards, they would be cared for. Girls' early training was very much like boys in terms of building hardy, fit, and strong bodies. Girls' training also started at 7 years old. Girls ran races and learned gymnastics and learned how to throw javelins and swim and climb trees. They also learned how to endure pain. They were also expected to stay in shape so they could give birth to children to help and protect the city-state. The women were raised to be resourceful and independent. When the men were off to battle, women ran the households and the estates. Spartan women, however, would not fight in battle, even if the city was attacked. That was an unknown idea in the Greek world. The Spartan ruling council was made up of retired warriors. There were no lights in the city at night. There is much evidence that when one sense is shut down, the other senses become sharper and clearer. Try closing your eyes for 10 minutes and notice how much more sensitive you are to the sounds around you without the distraction of your looking around. This is something the Spartans understood. Owls represented Athena. This is where we get our statement, as wise as an owl, from. The Spartans would accept no other coins besides their heavy iron bars inside the city. Athenian owls, therefore, were useless. The Athenians and the Spartans sometimes got along very well, and sometimes not at all. During the Persian conflicts, they are allies. The Athenians were also good warriors, but as we know, they balanced out their personality by developing a lot of different interests and facilities. They fought in the Trojan War and led Greece when Greece defeated the Persian Empire. The Athenians valued the Iliad and the Odyssey as sources of wisdom, beauty, and insight, and guides to human life. They thought that they addressed the basic questions of human existence. They were also great stories and great works of art. The famous Greek playwright Aeschylus once said, "We are all just eating a small slice from the great feast of Homer." Drama festivals in Athens went on for about a week. What would have happened if the Spartans had never existed? You are now playing a favorite game of historians called What If? Maybe the golden age of Athens would have continued for a very long time, or maybe they would have had some conflict with some other city-state or empire. Athens and Sparta, Part 2. Think back to the Persian conflicts. The Spartans and the Athenians had joined hands to lead Greece to defeat the Persians. Soon the Spartans retreat and isolate themselves. It is left to the Athenians to lead and protect Greece. Holed up in their mountain hideaway, the Spartans make an alliance with most of the city-states in the surrounding region, called the Peloponnesian Mountains. The Athenians gather their own allies together on the island of Delos, sacred to Apollo and Artemis. In the ancient world, alliances between city-states were temporary. Instead of signing a treaty, they were based on your word, which you swore before the gods in a sacred oath. In order to seal this alliance and create this Delian League, the Athenians did something different. They cast iron bars into the sea, and they proclaimed that the alliance would hold until the iron bars floated to the surface. Iron bars never float to the surface. For the Athenians, the alliance is permanent. The Athenians rule the seas with their navy, and they are busy supporting democratic movements trying to overthrow oligarchies and tyrants. Members can contribute troops, ships, or money. After a while, most just contribute money. The treasury for the league is moved to Athens for safekeeping. The Athenians also used some of the money to rebuild the damage from the Persian invasion, including the rebuilding of the temples on the Acropolis and the Parthenon. The Golden Age is in full swing. Now there is open conflict between Athens and her allies, and the Spartans and their allies. This war is called the Peloponnesian War. It is named after the Peloponnese Peninsula, where Sparta is located. The Battle of Marathon took 4 hours. The Battle of Salamis took 1 day. This war between Athens and Sparta, the Peloponnesian War, will be fought on and off for over 27 years, which means if it started tomorrow and you were 12, it would go on nearly until you were 40 years old. Almost every city-state is dragged into the war. The island states and the region around Athens join the Athenians. The region around Sparta and Macedonia, another region to the north, join the Spartans. Even within city-states, democratic elements favor the Athenians and the aristocrats favor the Spartans. This is a civil war, and it rips the Greek world apart. These are men whose grandfathers joined together to beat back the Persians, and now they are at war. Strategy. Sparta is strategically located, guarded from 3 sides by mountains. At the same time, its distance from the sea, 27 miles in the south, makes it difficult to blockade. Athens is an open port city with trade all across the Mediterranean Sea. After the Persian invasions, the Athenians have built long walls that connect the city center to the port. This means that goods, men, and material can flow in and out of the city freely. The Spartans want to fight on the land. The Athenians want to fight on the sea. When the war begins, the Spartans don't attack the city of Athens directly. They burn the crops in the countryside, particularly the olive trees. Athens is jam-packed with people from the countryside who come inside the city walls to escape the Spartan advances. After the first year of the war, Pericles, the leader of the Athenian democracy, makes a speech about the Athenian warriors who have fallen in battle. In it, he outlines characteristics of the world's first democracy. Let's take a look at the main points of the speech. We have been handed a free country. We are a model because power is in the hands not of a minority, but the whole people. Everyone is equal before the law. People rise by ability, not membership at a particular class. We don't get into a state if our neighbors enjoy themselves in a particular way. We are free and tolerant in our private lives. In public affairs, we keep to the law. We obey especially the laws for protection of the oppressed and those unwritten laws it is shameful to break. In our homes, we find beauty and good taste that drives away cares. Our city is open to the world. Our love of beauty does not lead to extravagance. Our love of the things of the mind does not make us soft. We are well informed about general politics. Someone who only minds their own business has no business here at all. We submit decisions to proper discussion. There is no incompatibility between word and deed. We make friends by doing good to others, not by receiving good from them. We are lord and rightful owners of ourselves, and we act with exceptional grace and versatility. Happiness depends on being free, and freedom depends on courage. The future will wonder at us, as the present wonders at us now. And we still do wonder and marvel at these remarkable people. The Spartans finally figured out that they needed a navy to fight the Athenians, so they built one. They weren't very good at naval warfare for a while, but now someone else decides to jump into the fight. The Persian Empire. The Persians are threatened by the Athenians, who are a democratic empire and are right on their border, so they decide to help the Spartans. Now the war is really between the Athenian navy and Persian gold. The Athenians have a series of military disasters and are on the verge of losing, but Pericles has put enough money away to build 150 new ships. Now the Athenians rally and win victory after victory. But there is always more Persian gold to build more Spartan ships. One day near the coast, the Athenians beach their ships to rest on dry land for an afternoon. The Spartans are nowhere in sight. Spartan ships suddenly appear and destroy the Athenian fleet. They say that when the news reached Athens that night, no one slept. The city was exhausted, jam-packed with refugees, their finest youth gone in battle. The treasury was empty. Soon after, the Spartan fleet sailed into the Athenian port. They pulled down the long walls to the music of flute girls, one historian tells us. The Spartans seized control of the city and overthrow the democracy. After a century of democratic rule, Athens reverts to rule by the aristocrats, supported by the Spartans. Soon after the Spartans are driven out, there's a confused struggle between democratic and aristocratic elements in the city. The democracy is restored, but there's great anger and a desire for revenge. The city seems to have lost its way. Anyone connected to the aristocrats is looked on suspiciously. A few of the powerful aristocrats had been followers of Socrates in the early days. This made Socrates a suspicious character. He was arrested on charges of corrupting the youth and encouraging people to not believe in the traditional gods. At his trial, Socrates defended himself. He told the Athenians that they owed him a great debt, for he was like a gadfly buzzing around the city, and they were like a big foolish horse that had to be constantly poked and prodded and annoyed into thinking and doing what was right. But the mood was ugly in the city. The 300 jurors voted to convict Socrates. Socrates was an old man. Part of the jury process was that the convicted would suggest their own punishment. People expected Socrates to suggest a mild punishment, perhaps banishment from the city that he loved. He rose and spoke to the jury. "Since I have done you such a great service, my punishment should be free meals for the rest of my life at the city's expense." The jurors were so angry that even some of those who voted to acquit him voted for the death penalty. Socrates was taken to a cell, and there he sat calmly surrounded by his inner circle of students, Plato among them. Some of the students had arranged for Socrates to escape. "Socrates, you're an old man," they said. "No one wants to see you put to death. We can arrange for you to leave the city and perhaps come back when things have settled down." Socrates spoke. "I have taught you to obey the laws of the city. What kind of city would it be if every citizen decided to pick and choose and obey some laws and not others?" Hemlock, a slow-acting poison, was brought to Socrates to drink. He lay back as it slowly worked, and he spoke to his followers. "Do not weep for me. You go back into the street, and I go to another place. Who can say which one is better?" The world's first democracy had put to death its most famous citizen. The Golden Age is over. A once wonderful world gone mad in a few decades, one scholar said. But the glowing brilliance of the Golden Age did not disappear. Even in shattered remains, it illuminated the Greek world for centuries. As it illuminates our world even today.